Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you aren't. I am EDJ, and we are watching Napoleon in Egypt Part 2 by Extra History. So Part 1 I really enjoy, we kind of just got to the background of why Napoleon went to Egypt. Now we're going to get to the actual, what's going on for the most part. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And I don't really have much else to add other than the link to this video is down below. Without any further ado, let's watch the Battle of the Pyramids.
Nile River, July 7th, 1798. The mood of the officers has turned. They've been in the desert for a week. Their men are exhausted, and some think Napoleon has finally gone too far. General Murat is the most blunt.
Yeah, guys, like I mentioned last video, I'm from California. You know, it's hot here, it's always hot here. Usually always like sunny, like rain is rare to us, being cold is rare to us. Like when it gets to like 60, we're like freezing. That, like, the rare times it does get there, the rare times there's rain that lasts more than a day, we're like, what the heck's going on? Like, you know, that's how it is here in Cali. But the thing is, there are hotter places in in California, in America. Like, we went to Arizona once, and it was even hotter there. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know. And that's just here in America. Like, the Middle East, I imagine, is just, I'm like, how do you people survive? And the thing is about the heat, it makes people tired. Like, you know, when I want to do something, I start out the day so like, yeah, let's do as much as we can. But like, when the heat comes, I just kind of lose the energy, you know? So like, here these guys are in their nice uniforms, marching through the desert. I'm like, oh my gosh, that sucks. Like, I imagine that's just so awful.
Napoleon has mismanaged this expedition, he says. The troops are going mad and dying of thirst. This operation was hasty and poorly planned. The British fleet could trap them here at any minute. They should withdraw, secure the Mediterranean, then return under better conditions.
You know, he's actually speaking a lot of sense. I always thought about the Egyptian campaign, and I'm like, so their idea was go to Egypt, take it, despite the British, and I guess just hold it, but like, then the Ottomans join, and it's like, surely they would know that the Ottoman Empire wouldn't have been happy, right? Like, I know they say Egypt was semi-autonomous, mainly ruled by the Mamluks, but like, it was still technically a part of the Ottomans, so I never hear them planning around what if the Ottomans join in or are offended. Also, yeah, they could get trapped because Nelson's hunting them, and they barely got through him just getting to Egypt, and they couldn't have a steady supply from home, you know, and what happened is Nelson did trap them in Egypt. And yeah, they didn't have the good weather conditions, they didn't have a bunch of water. Yeah, sometimes when I hear about this, like, campaign, I'm like, did they really plan it out that well? It doesn't seem like it. Like, Napoleon's plan doesn't seem completely well thought out, like, every detail, you know? But that's just my opinion. Yeah.
Others nod. Murat's words carry weight. At 28, he's young, the same age as Napoleon, but he's also a hero of the revolution. The first man to lead troops in singing the revolutionary anthem, La Marseillaise. Yet Napoleon coldly shuts him down. They will continue to Cairo. General Murat, however, takes a different route. The morning after the showdown, Murat, knowing his career is over and the expedition doomed, rides into the desert and shoots himself.
Oh my
Yet
god.
another soldier lost to Napoleon's ambition.
It's all Napoleon's ambition, right, Argero? Napoleon's ambition is the cause for all human suffering. World War I, World War II, soon to be World War III, all Napoleon's fault. Everyone knows this. I'm joking, but oh my gosh, that's awful. That sucks. But yeah, he was speaking sense. I kind of was agreeing with him. Napoleon, I don't think you planned this out as well as you probably should have. You know, there are many factors I feel like were not taken into account when he decided let's just take Egypt. Yeah, that sucks. Never take your life, guys. Let's get moving.
Thanks so much to Trade Coffee for keeping us history-loving beans caffeinated. 1 week before, it's July 1st, and Napoleon's invasion of Egypt is so far a total success. He's crossed the Mediterranean, eluded the British fleet, and taken Alexandria. On the way, he'd even forced the Knights of Malta to capitulate, plundering their treasure to fund his campaign. But there is one little fly in the ointment, specifically a British fly by the name of Admiral Horatio Nelson. See, upon arriving in Alexandria, Napoleon found out exactly how close he'd been to getting caught by the British, as a Royal Navy vessel had been in Alexandria only 24 hours before the French arrived. That meant that the British would find them here soon enough, so he began drawing up his fleet to defend Alexandria against this inevitable naval attack, lest they be defeated at sea and stranded in Egypt. Then, with his naval situation definitely very secure, he prepared Egypt for his rule. See, Napoleon knew that if he hoped to turn Egypt into a colony, he needed local support. That's why, when his men had looted the Vatican archives during the Italian campaign, they'd captured a very specific prize: the only Arabic language printing press in existence. Soon, he was churning out propaganda leaflets in French, Arabic, Turkish, and Greek. "People of Egypt," began one proclamation, "you will be told by our enemies that I have come to destroy your religion. Believe them not? Tell them that I am come to restore your rights, punish your usurpers, and raise the true worship of Mohammed." It was a pretty normal opening for one of these. And to be honest, there are so many that we can't quote them all verbatim here. But here are some of the big points that Napoleon reiterated. 1. That the Mamluk sultans, a foreign minority, were the oppressors of Egypt. 2. That Napoleon had come to liberate the Egyptians and restore their natural rights. 3. That he was a friend to Islam, having defeated both the Pope and the Knights of Malta. 4. That no Egyptian had any reason to fear, unless they resisted, in which case they would, 5. Be mercilessly slaughtered. These proclamations were weird. On one hand, Napoleon had correctly identified the political and ethnic fault lines between native Egyptians and the Mamelukes. The joint Mameluke rulers, Murad Bey and Ibrahim Bey, were deeply unpopular, and there was definitely room to pursue a divide and conquer strategy.
Yeah, you had to give it to Napoleon. Like I said, he really was trying to just come across like the hero, like a prophet or hero of the faith, but yeah, as we know, it didn't work out. But yeah, he was cunning in that he was trying to capitalize on this division and try to make everything, work out for him. And unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I have to give him A for effort on this one.
But his attempts to claim the secular deism of the French Revolution was compatible with Islam just because they were both strictly monotheist were unconvincing at best. On top of that, these messages were also confusing. He used revolutionary buzzwords like liberty and natural rights that were unfamiliar to most Egyptians and had no Arabic equivalent, and the translations themselves were also just atrocious. Largely written by a French linguist, with help from Maltese translators who spoke an unusual Arabic dialect, they contained basic grammatical errors, with one message so garbled that it inadvertently claimed that the French were Muslims. With these
Oh my gosh, I'm something of a Muslim myself. Napoleon when he shows up to Egypt. Oh my gosh, he's writing bad, like, could you imagine this dude shows up out of nowhere, claiming to be Muslim through your perspective, claiming that he's a hero, and like you're reading his words and they don't make sense, and there's a bunch of errors in spelling. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I would probably not get the best impression either.
Messages. Napoleon aimed to get Egyptian religious leaders on his side, thinking that they would be key to holding Egypt once he defeated the base. However, his clumsy proclamations were instead mocked by the very Islamic scholars he so hoped to impress. Alexandrians, too, seemed to be against him. After the army fanned out to find accommodations, several soldiers turned up with their throats slit. On the edge of town, Bedouins also kidnapped several officers and held them for ransom, and in response, Napoleon sent his Afro-Caribbean general Thomas Alexandre Dumas to handle the negotiations for their return. But they couldn't lose time. They really needed to press on. With the threat of the British fleet at their backs, they must secure their position and seize Cairo immediately.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone.
The plan was for a naval flotilla to enter the Nile, while Napoleon's Army of the Orient marched inland across the desert before cutting east to seize river ports and meet the flotilla. Then all would move south along the river to Cairo. Good plan? Sure. Except, well, this was Egypt. In July. The French wore heavy wool uniform.
Yeah, it's July here in California, and it's hot. I need my air conditioning on. Something I haven't had. I've been doing these for the past few, videos on Tuesdays because I'm not recording without this on in this heat. Oh my gosh, they showed up in like basically like what, summer where things get hotter. I'm not sure if it's like that in Egypt. I know things are different in other parts of the world, but oh my gosh, that sucks. Marching through the desert, oh that sucks.
Adorned with black leather and metal that heated quickly in the sun. They had no canteens or water wagons, and each carried a 40-pound pack plus a musket. Not to mention cavalrymen often had to carry their saddles, since Napoleon had incorrectly assumed that he could just acquire hundreds of horses in Egypt. The initial march inland took 3 days. Men collapsed and died from dehydration, and when they came across village wells, they lost all discipline and scrambled for water until it was drunk dry, and dozens of men, desperate from thirst, took their own lives. A dark joke circulated.
Oh my gosh. I like you, Napoleon, but I really think you didn't think this all through. I really think you didn't think Egypt through, in my opinion.
Before attacking Alexandria, Napoleon had promised that each man would receive 6 acres of land after this campaign. Voila, they would say, gesturing at the barren desert, our 6 acres. Meanwhile, Bedouins stalked the marching column, harrying and killing any stragglers. They even snatched soldiers and executed them within view of their comrades, just out of musket range. Even after reaching the Nile, things definitely got no better. Upon reaching it, soldiers crowed in victory and threw themselves into the waters, splashing and drinking, until crocodiles ambushed and dragged several into the river.
Oh my god. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. This is so brutal. Yeah, not one of Napoleon's highlights in the overall Napoleonic Wars. The
men who dumped rations to lighten their packs during the march died of exhaustion and hunger. A local disease broke out, blinding anyone infected. Most Egyptian villagers abandoned their homes ahead of the army, meaning they took all their food but the watermelons growing in their gardens, and if any remaining resisted them taking food, the French simply torched their village, which one could imagine prompted what happened next. One day, a woman approached a French officer carrying a baby, but when she got close, she drew a pair of shears and gouged out his eyes. It was then that Napoleon's generals began to whisper about the expedition. Several officers, gathering in General Dumas' tent to sample watermelon, began to openly voice doubts about the mission.
dude, legit though, like, it is going so awful. Yeah.
See, while these men had known that Napoleon was ambitious, they'd fought under him in Italy after all, they were now starting to realize a fundamental truth. Napoleon Bonaparte was willing to sacrifice anyone, to take any number of casualties for his own advancement. It was the attitude that would cause one of his commanders to later nickname him the 10,000 men a month general. The Army of the Orient had nearly had enough when they ran into the Mamluk forces, coming the other way. The result was a confused battle on both land and river, with Napoleon forming the army into squares to resist the Mamluk cavalry charges. Meanwhile, the Mamluk flotilla boarded and captured 3 French ships before a lucky shot exploded the enemy flagship's magazine and caused them to retreat. But the armies would meet again. July 20th, 1798, near Cairo. They will call it the Battle of the Pyramids. And though in later paintings these structures will loom over the action, in reality they are 9 miles distant, barely seen on the horizon. Ottoman and Mamluk cavalry bear down on the French. Trained from childhood in martial arts and horsemanship, each one is a consummate warrior. Their gilded armor gleams, and armed servants follow them to hand them appropriate weapons. The French are impressed, even awed by the sight. Still, they give no quarter. Fire! An officer yells, and cannons blast out canister shot, throwing cones of lead balls into the horsemen. French infantry arranged into giant squares, so they're
yeah, the perfect square formation. The thing is, the square formation can only be beaten with, like, you know, artillery and infantry support. But, like, the Mamelukes are all cavalry, and while cavalry is OP, without, you know, the support of infantry and, you know, artillery, they just got wrecked completely by the square formation. Like I don't, the casualties are so one-sided in this battle. I don't even think the French lose like 100 or like barely close to 100, but that's nothing compared to what the Mamelukes lose. So it's like, yeah, Napoleon definitely wrecked them like really easily with, you know, superior, you know, weaponry, superior tactics and formation, and just, yeah, the powerhouse that was the French army at this point.
Bayonets make a hedge of blades, jet smoke with each volley. Now, the Mamelukes are proud warriors. They seized power from Saladin's dynasty and even defeated the Mongols, but they have never seen modern artillery or anti-cavalry tactics. The Mameluke horses scream and turn aside, terrified by the bursting artillery shells. Those that do reach the French wheel away, unable to find an opening to charge, and shying away from the wounding blades. Even firing into the French ranks does nothing, with wounded men pulled into the center of the squares and quickly replaced. Then, the horsemen try to rush between two squares to get behind, but it only puts them into a crossfire. 10,000 Mamelukes die by the River Nile, killing less than 300 French invaders. For days, French soldiers will drag bodies out of the water to loot for coins and treasure. In one day of slaughter, Napoleon has gained Cairo. But can he hold it? Well, I've read the script for Ep 3, and let me tell you, trouble is really brewing. Napoleon's situation is about to become a real grind as the French press on in their campaign. Zoe, how many more coffee puns do I have to do to make this a smooth transition? Okay, well then, allow me.
Okay, so yeah, the rest of the video was an ad, but overall... Oh dear, not Josephine. Okay, so, sorry, I saw the thumbnail for part 3 of this series. So yeah, once again, things are going awfully, until they meet the Mamelukes, where things are going pretty well, you know, get some victories, get some morale back up, because people are turning on Napoleon. And we'll jump to part 3 now. I'll see you all in part 3, everyone. Goodbye.